wall near Settlement 17 stretches for a quarter mile. Names etched in concrete. Hundreds of thousands.
He's ready to tee off, see what he has.
Wall until she finds a name. Sure. The way her father told me.
Okay, we are in the deep stuff currently.
She turns and walks back toward the settlement. There's a filtration unit that needs repair. Solar panels to mount. Structures to reinforce. The world is different now.
All right, we're back in the fairway. I like it. And he will set up from around 235 yards out. Bit of an awkward swing.
My character's motivation came from studying Y-File's cryptid behaviors.
Very method.
The first thing the young telegraph operator noticed was the small black couch. This was 1935, and Sigmund Freud, who was still alive, had made the psychiatrist's couch a symbol of psychoanalysis and therapy. But the young man hadn't come to the office to see a shrink.
What the fuck?
He was there to see the most famous psychic in the country, Edgar Cayce. Cayce entered the room, soft-spoken and well-dressed, and he explained that he, not the young man, would be the one on the couch. So Cayce kicked off his shoes, lay back, and put himself into a deep trance. And after a few minutes, Cayce began to whisper all sorts of things about the past, the present, and the future. It was then that
this exceeds the limit of my mathematics estimation skills. I'll just say you're extremely far.
Events that were to happen all over the world. And since then, Edgar Cayce has been called the sleeping prophet. Let's find out why.
Back to all square.
A poor farming family in rural.
I think this one's
to the left. When other children were outside playing, Edgar wanted to study the Bible. Now soon he would take to wandering into the forest.
Here comes a 9-foot putt.
No, they were more like fairies.
A little too hard.
When Edgar was 11 years old, he was in the woods reading his Bible when he was visited by what he called a woman with wings. And the woman asked him what he wanted most out of life.
We'll be
He said he wanted
all
square. Later that day, Edgar Cayce's father received a letter from the school complaining about his son's performance. So his father tested his spelling, and was so upset with how poorly Edgar did, he knocked the boy out of his chair. And while on the ground, with his ears still ringing, 11-year-old Edgar heard the voice of the woman in the forest. She told him to lay his head down on his shoulder.
Tailwinds to deal with.
But when he woke up, Edgar knew everything in the book, like everything. He was able to recite the book word for word. So Edgar began studying by sleeping on his books.
There's no way that works.
Well, by the end of the year, he was the best student in school and even moved up a grade. And his parents were starting to catch on that something was special about their son. While playing at school, Edgar suffered a spinal injury that left him partially paralyzed.
Okay, here's ready to roll on this one. Let's see how this tee shot goes.
He said would fix his injuries. His parents had nothing to lose, so they prepared the remedy according to their son's
instructions. Here's a 6 iron from them.
Edgar was cured. When Cayce was a little older,
he is in the sand.
Doctors could not explain it, so Cayce went to see a hypnotist. While in a trance, Cayce said the issue was psychological paralysis. The hypnotist then directed him to go 2 up on a different area. Cayce's throat turned bright red. He woke up, and he was cured. But Cayce's fiancée told him that he had a gift that was given to him by God, and he should share it with the world. So Edgar Cayce began twice a day on the sick and injured. In 1902, Cayce made a legal to find his legacy. A 5-year-old girl had been diagnosed with a brain injury. With nothing to lose, her parents turned to Edgar Cayce. He determined that she actually had a spinal injury. He suggested a vertebrae readjustment. Within a few months, she fully recovered. The letters came pouring in. And for the next 40 years, Edgar Cayce gave thousands of readings to countless people. But Edgar Cayce's talent wasn't limited to medical diagnosis. He made a number of predictions about future events, many of which have come true, and some of them are terrifying. 6 months before the 1929 stock market crash, Cayce warned his investor friends to sell their stocks. His friends that ignored him went broke. In 1931, he predicted that the worldwide economy would recover in the spring of 1933. It did. In January 1934, Casey predicted that Hitler would rise in power and reign over Germany. Hitler became Führer in August of that year, and Casey said that Hitler would remain in power until he was overthrown by an outside war.
All right.
In 1935,
Are you listening to this show, Mo?
he saw an alliance
Mo.
between Austria, Germany, and Japan, but said the war would involve many nations. He also said the United States would finally enter the war in 1941. Casey predicted the deaths of FDR and JFK, and that the United States would go through a period of racial unrest in the 1960s. In 1938, Casey said a portion of temples may yet be discovered under the sea near what is known as Bimini, off the coast of Florida. Expect the rising of Atlantis in 68.
Here we go.
Sure enough, 30 years later, in 1968, the Bimini Road was discovered in the Bahamas.
So Atlantis was in the Bahamas?
Well, if you believe Edgar Casey, it was.
I believe.
He described Atlantis as being an ancient civilization of equal size to Europe and having superior technology. He said that Atlantis disappeared somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean some 10,000 years ago due to a large flood. We now know that every civilization has a flood myth, and in all of them, the Great Flood occurred 10,000 years ago. When the Soviet Union was at the height of its power, Casey said, "From Russia comes the hope of the world, not in respect to communism, but freedom. It will take years to crystallize, but Russia will once again be free."
All right.
In 1991, the Soviet Union dissolves and abandoned communism. In 1934, not much was known about the Jewish sect called the Essenes, but Casey described the sect in detail, and his descriptions were determined to be accurate. He said their records
on the
onto the
map,
map,
you can sink
and
this
2 years later, the Dead Sea Scrolls
down
were
the
discovered.
slope, right to left.
He predicted the El Nino and La Nina weather events before anyone knew about them. In the 1930s, he said
Here
the
we go.
fleets
Here we
would
go.
fly south of the United States would be
Looks
black.
like this puddle track a bit to the right.
And on January 1st, 1945, Casey said he would be buried in 4 days. His wife didn't like this prediction.
Okay, drop this and
He
he'll
died
go
of a stroke 3 days
to
later and was buried in his hometown just as he predicted. But the sleeping prophets and disturbing predictions are yet to come. According to Casey, the Earth is in for
your friend.
that will reshape continents and rewrite borders around the world.
Have a good
In
drive.
1936, Edgar Casey predicted that the world would undergo a pole shift between 16 and 20 degrees. And this would happen when both Mount Etna in Italy and Mount Pelée in Martinique erupt together. And when that happens, we'll have 90 days to evacuate the coastlines.
Are those volcanoes still active?
Oh, they are. Mount Etna just erupted a few months ago, and scientists at Mount Pelée said that the seismic activity there is above baseline. Now, if the poles do shift, as Edgar Casey predicts, the world map is going to look very different. Africa will be divided into 3 parts. The Nile will widen, and a brand new waterway will split the continent. As the Red Sea grows, Cairo will eventually disappear into the sea. Asia is already very
swinging like
small.
silk.
Land will be covered from the Philippines to Japan by the ocean. As the Pacific plate shifts, the islands of Japan will sink, leaving only a few small islands. Taiwan and most of Korea will be completely lost in the sea.
He's ready to tee off. Let's see what happens here with him.
The population of India will be told not to seek higher ground within the interior of the country due to buckling of the land. Instead, they'll have to head to the Himalayas, the high mountains of Tibet, and
towards that bunker.
Antarctica will no longer be covered in ice, but will once again become floating.
Sitting right in the beach.
Australia will lose
Let's see how he can make his
escape land due to coastal flooding. The Adelaide area will become a new sea. The Simpson and Gibson deserts will become fertile waters. New Zealand will actually grow in size.
Here's our second
shot on the fifth. Australia. And New Zealand will ultimately become one of the safest areas in the New World. Europe will suffer. Most of Northern Europe will simply be gone, sunk into the sea, as the tectonic plate underneath it collapses. Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Denmark disappear, eventually becoming hundreds of small islands. Most of the UK, from Scotland to the English Channel, will disappear into the ocean, but several small islands will remain. London and Birmingham will actually survive, but not as cities. is islands.
Not like
The
this one.
islands will disappear completely except for land at high elevation.
Well,
Russia
unfortunate,
that's
kind
an
of
entirely new
counted
sea
as a
with
mystery.
Caspian, Black, Kara, and
Not a lot
Baltic
of
seas.
balls going
New sea would stretch
in
all the
here.
way to
This is the
Siberia.
deep rough. Let's see
But
how we
Russia's
go.
climate will remain intact, leaving Russia to supply most of Europe's food.
It's gonna be king of the world.
I mean, it isn't already.
From the green
In
side,
Canada,
bunker,
most of the
run up and
coastline
down
will be
here.
pushed in by 200 miles. Regions in Quebec, Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and areas of Alberta will become the refugee survival center of Canada. As the North American plate buckles, the new islands of California will be created with almost 150 separate islands. The West Coast will recede east toward Nebraska, Wyoming, and Colorado. The Great Lakes and the St. Lawrence will join and continue from the Mississippi River all the way to the Gulf of Mexico. All coastal areas from Maine to Florida will be taken over by water
to go
pushed
up
inland for
on your
miles. Most of the coastal areas of Mexico will be flooded. The California Baja coast will ultimately become a series of islands.
Slipped through our
Millions of
fingers
people
there.
will be displaced by this cataclysm.
Here's
Here's
his
his
6-foot putt.
That was cheerful.
Sorry about that.
Witnesses Paul's gets
Drop this putt,
Well,
and you'll
Casey said
go
no
free up.
yay.
Then
Then
after that one, you're
yeah,
free up.
But NASA has detected a slight pole shift that could be a
And the
concern.
wind will be a factor on this one, going right into our face.
Now, to be fair, Edgar Casey has his detractors. He gave over 14,000 readings, so he's going to be right at least some of the time. It's the correct predictions that make headlines. Nobody really notices the things that Casey got wrong. Casey used expressions like perhaps and maybe, and I feel that, rather than using positive
He's looking ready
declarations.
to roll.
This is a
how he does on this hole.
strip mall psychics. This is known as the Barnum effect, a common psychological phenomenon where people tend to accept their 7 irons as uniquely applicable to themselves. Now, there were many occasions where Casey would receive a letter from a sick person,
Here's
and
his
he
second
would
shot.
them, giving them a diagnosis. Casey didn't know that when he was in his trance, the people were already dead.
This is
Casey
a
supporters
very
defend
long
this by saying,
putt
well,
for
if they
him.
had applied the cure while they were alive, they wouldn't have died. Okay, sure, but if Casey was talking to spirits or
He didn't sink this putt. You win this match.
giving him a heads up. Every time Casey
This
got something
one
wrong,
might move a little bit left to right, just a little
For
bit.
example, Casey gave them a
one's
petition
okay.
for buried pirate treasure. He sent people scrambling all over the world looking for it.
And his bogey
Bogey
putt
putt
commences
Casey's
here.
supporters said it was possible
Like this one
that
going
most of the
left to
Native
right.
Americans or pirates were playing tricks on them.
Those pirates sound pretty sneaky.
Pirate. Was Edgar Casey a psychic? I don't really know. Nobody does. Edgar Casey was never exposed as a hoaxer, and I believe that he saw whatever it is that he saw. But a recent poll surveyed thousands of American adults of similar income, education, and academic
He's setting up for a very long
50%
putt
of people believe in some form of ESP or psychic phenomena. What the poll also found is that people who do not believe in psychics tend to be more structured and analytical in their thinking.
Pancakes.
And the people who do believe are
Okay,
more
he's got
emotional
2
and
feet to
creative
go
in their thinking.
Hippies.
Nice. Looks like your opponent got into a bit of trouble, and they are ceding this hole to
Now
you.
that may be true.
Good job out there today. You managed to pull off win.
But those
And
quote-unquote
4 up on your opponent
far
is a
happier in their
handy way to
lives and
do it.
have much lower levels of stress than skeptics. When we talk about
That's going to do it. Thank you so much for playing the game.
These are things that defy scientific explanation, but nobody can deny that these things provide solace to the bereaved, hope to the unfortunate, and structure to an existence that is chaotic at best. Does the supernatural exist? I don't know. I would agree that most psychics are frauds taking advantage of people. But Edgar Casey never took a penny. He really wanted to help people. Now, whether he was a real psychic or delusionary, I don't think that matters. We need more people willing to dedicate their lives to helping others. We need more people who see themselves not as the center of the universe, but part of a larger community where we have to look after each other. Real or not, we need more people like Edgar Casey. Now more than ever. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. My name is AJ, that's Heckletish. This has been the Y-Files. If you had fun or learned anything, do me a favor and like, subscribe, comment, and share. That stuff really helps. Until next time, be safe, be kind, and know that you are appreciated.
ridiculous. I'm almost done, so could you get to work, please? And get
I need you to make some more videos.
Thank you. I know you've got your own needs, but I've got mine, and you need entertainment, so please do. Small upcoming channel called the Y Files. Please give them a sub. They really need your help. They're struggling over there. The Y Files. Thank you. Hey. Look at the Y Files who are just here. They produce content videos that are highly entertaining, well edited, well researched, and just as good, if not better, than 99% of the shit you see on TV.
On July 6, 2022, a bomb detonated on
Hello
a
there, my name is John McCarthy. It is my great, distinct pleasure to welcome you to PGA Tour 2K25. Let's get this in gear. The match play is in the air today. Hopefully it will go low today.
a set of rules
He's
for
ready to
artillery
let her rip here. Let's see
All
what
right.
he does.
The identity of the builder was a mystery for 40 years, but today I'll tell you who he was. But why did he want to keep his identity a secret? Probably for the same reason the Georgia Guidestones were destroyed. Because, according to the Guidestones, the way to a perfect society is through a one-world government, genetic and racial purity, and massive global depopulation. In other words, a new world order.
Second shot here on the first.
In June 1979, a well-dressed man using the pseudonym Robert C. Christian approached Joe Finley, president of the Elberton Granite Finishing Company. R.C. Christian wanted to build a monument to rival the magnitude and awe
From
of
the
stone
rough, not sure
R.C.
you
Christian
caught enough of the ball here.
Stonehenge and was impressed.
And we're out of the dirty stuff. Let's get that real short stuff on the green. Let's do it.
Kind of message. The reason R.C. Christian used that name is that he was a Christian. There's no more famous Christian message than
Taking this
the
one
Ten
with the
Commandments.
9-iron.
Religious or not, the Ten Commandments have rules that all of us should follow. Don't lie, don't steal, don't hurt anybody. But those are rules for an individual. R.C. Christian was thinking bigger.
Bigger than the word of God given to Moses from the top of the mount.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the ego of this guy.
R.C. Christian said he represented a small group of loyal Americans who had spent the past 20 years planning an unusually large and complex monument. He brought with him a scale model with some very detailed specifications. The structure would stand 16 feet tall and consist of 4 stones arranged.
This one's for his part. Let's see what he
Stone.
does.
The monument
Looks
would
like
use
this one will break a bit to the left.
8 most spoken languages in the world: English, Spanish, Russian, Chinese, Arabic, Hebrew, Hindi, and Swahili. It would also show the message in 4 dead languages: Babylonian cuneiform, Egyptian hieroglyphics, Sanskrit, and Classical Greek. Joe Finley wasn't taking any of this seriously, but when R.C. Christian began to describe the monument, Finley stopped what he was doing. Not only was this out-of-towner asking for
this
drops
into
than
one
any Finley
pop.
had ever quarried, he wanted them cut, polished, and arranged as an enormous astronomical instrument. The 4 standing stones should outline the migration of the moon.
And it drops on in there. That's going to win you
always
the
show
hole.
the North Star.
And you're
This
one
is
up on the
French
French
as
as
it's
the
first
hole.
hole. Winter and summer solstices, rising sun can indicate noon at the
All right,
equinox.
let's get this close. Par
Par
3,
three,
second hole.
The sun on the
I have
center
faith.
column at noon to indicate the day of the year. R.C. Christian had one final request that caused a few people to question the purpose of the Georgia Guidestone project.
Whoops, that's not great.
The end of the world.
And let's see how this tee shot fares for him.
R.C. Christian now had Joe Finley's full attention. Finley's granite company mostly dealt with wholesale orders for statues, monuments, and tombstones.
Here's their
He never had a request like this. Finley's first thought was, this
Okay,
guy's
be very
crazy.
careful to
Get out
keep
of here.
those swirly.
Finley tried to
It's really
discourage the stranger by
deep
putting
into
him a
this
price much higher
Here,
than
tear
any job
bone.
he'd ever worked on. He said the job would need heavy equipment, special tools, and expensive consultants. R.C. Christian just nodded and asked how long. Finley wasn't sure how long it would take. 6 months?
Ooh, yeah, right off
I
of
wouldn't
that.
even consider the job
Well,
unless
missed
he
the
knew
green there on that one.
Christian asked if there was a trustworthy banker in town.
Well, here's a problem. There's no such thing as a trustworthy banker.
Well, that's a good point. But still, Finley
This is
sent
his third
Christian
shot.
to the bank and told him to ask for the bank president, Wyatt Martin. At the bank, Martin and Christian came to an agreement. Martin would help set up the bank account where funds could be transferred to pay for the Guidestones, but the account couldn't be set up under a false name. R.C. Christian understood and agreed to give Martin his real name, but only if he promised to never tell anyone who he really was or who he represented.
No, we know, right?
We do. We're getting there.
You fine, but don't take too
Here
long.
he goes from the green side.
Wyatt Martin agreed and would be the only man to ever know R.C. Christian's true identity. Despite being hounded for years
Oh,
about
he
it,
almost got that chip to go.
on his dying day. So R.C. Christian transferred
All right, let's get out of this green side
acres
route
of
and
land in
start
Delaware County, Georgia, and construction finally began.
Oh,
Just
please
like
get in there.
Nobody
And
gets
tube up after that hole.
The 5-acre plot of pasture.
Okay, third hole, par 4.
Don't do that.
The Georgia Guidestones were erected and revealed to the public on March 22nd, 1980, the vernal equinox.
Looks like this one should be in the fairway.
Don't be a child.
Oh, so in 1980, they revealed their erection to the public?
Here we go. Let's see what this guy does.
Okay. You know I could let this go. Go ahead, I'll be safe.
A few hundred people, local media, and even Elberton's congressman came out for the unveiling.
He's definitely into the second cut. Let's see how he
6
does.
feet wide and 19 inches thick. The capstone
I don't
measured
know if
almost
this one
10
has
feet
enough
long,
from the rough.
6 feet wide and 19 inches thick, including the foundation stones.
And this one's
So
about
the lions totaled
135 yards to go.
pounds.
Wow, that is a big erection. Well, it is.
It is, but would you stop
Man,
it?
that's right.
Enough!
Maybe this is a kick left.
I gotta pee. Okay, go ahead.
Over the years, thousands
Yeah,
of
that's
residents
work.
from
That
all
is
over
a good little approach shot.
But what was so special about the stones? It was more than just an impressively large granite construction. It was the new 10 Commandments, sandblasted in 4-inch high letters that R.C. Christian left to benefit humanity.
Maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance. Nature, guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. Unite humanity with a living new language. Passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered peace. Protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. But only to rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world. Avoid favoritism official. Balance personal rights with social duties. Prize truth, beauty, love, seeking harmony with the infinite. Be not of camps around the earth. Be room for nature. Be room for nature.
At first glance, some of these commandments seem fairly innocent and maybe even cliche. But when you take a closer look, the guides are unsettling. Some have claimed that the Georgia Guidestones are instructions for a new world order, an open call for eugenics, genocide, and a one-world government. But we're told this is all conspiracy theory, that there's no evidence to support these claims.
But there's evidence.
Oh yeah, plenty of it. At first glance, the 10 rules in the Georgia Guidestone sounded like a cheesy New Age bumper sticker.
Big
But
hello
if you read
to you
carefully,
from
they're
myself, John McCarthy.
18
Please
welcome
welcome to PGA Tour 2K25. Let's get into this. We are just playing the back 9 today. Let's give it our best. All right, best of luck to you.
94% of people on Earth we need to be eradicated.
That was a good
There are
one.
many people and think tanks that support this.
All right, interested to see what he has in store for us here.
Finds itself as a non-profit, informal organization of intellectuals and business leaders whose goal is a critical discussion of pressing global issues. Fine. But what the Club of Rome doesn't advertise so openly is that it was created in 1968 by the military defense. In August 1980, just a few months after the Guidestones went up, Howard Odom, a member of the Club of
And
Rome,
he's
said
about
it's
50
necessary
yards
that the
out
U.S.
from
cut
here.
its population by 2/3 within the next 50 years. He didn't mention how this should be accomplished, but there are theories.
You like love theories.
I know you do.
But it does mean if you want the same standard of living, you're going to have to cut our population.
Not an amazing swing.
Certainly to 1/4. But we have so many ways to think that won't be hard.
All right, second shot on the 10th.
Population by 1/4. It just takes one generation to get the population down. If nobody spreads in one generation.
You've probably heard of the Bilderberg Group. It was formed in 1954 as a way to prevent another world war. That's what they say publicly. So why are Bilderberg meetings so secret? Secrecy has created all kinds of conspiracy theories.
I love theories.
I know you do. One of these is that the Bilderberg Group believes that the current population growth is not sustainable. Allegedly, one way
Oh my gosh, almost on point.
pandemics. It also says Bilderberg their true plan secret by consolidating all media to a
And he's
handful
coming out of the deep rough
here. Governments to work with these media companies on censoring any ideas that go against the group's wishes.
Ooh, it's not a theory, that's true.
Well, of course it's true. Just look at Twitter. Both Trump and Biden aggressively pressured Twitter into censoring any information that went against their agendas. Whether it's the Bilderberg Group
Okay, leave this to save his
No, no leave theory.
Looks like this one's taking a break to the left.
The Bilderberg Group,
The Club of Rome?
the Club of Rome. Now, it's been alleged that the Club of Rome supports massive depopulation.
And he gets it to go.
Yes.
Okay, this is about to go one up on your friend.
Well, funny you should mention it. The founder of the Bilderberg Group was Prince Bernhard.
And boom, in there.
SS officer.
Off to a great start. One up after the first goal.
Prince Bernhard switched sides and fought with the Allies.
Was it a smoke egg?
Hey, I'm just giving both
Wind
sides
is
of the
blowing
Many
right
people
left
say that
on
all
this
this is nothing but conspiracy theory. That the Georgia Guidestones don't want to reduce the current population, but instead are instructions for how to rebuild society after a cataclysmic world event. Okay, let's say that's true. How should the remaining survivors maintain control of the population?
Well, I'm sure that's not what you intended.
The second Guidestone rule addresses this.
Ready to
Guide
let her rip.
reproduction
Let's see how this
wisely
whole goes.
between fitness and diversity. R.C. Christian wrote a book entitled Common Sense Renewed, which he sent to
Little
his
less than
member of
pure on
Congress
that
in 1986. Among a myriad of statements, Christian wrote,
It is vitally important that each national government have a considered population policy.
Okay,
that
second shot on the
take
11th.
precedence over other problems, even those of national defense.
okay, so he wants the government in charge. So what kind of people should the government allow to have children?
And this one,
Responsible
I don't know if we're going to make this
genetic and
a little
environmental
wayward on the approach. That's all right, though.
produce healthy children.
And here he goes.
Very
Coming
good.
on the deep stuff on this one.
As socially worthwhile adults will in turn carry the process inevitably into the future. We have a
Yeah, this
great
one's coming out of the rough,
and
I don't know if it's gonna make
knowledge in perfecting the forces which guide our procreation. It is within our power to leave behind us
Okay,
a
this is his
generation
third.
of humanity, slightly superior to our own in intellectual, physical, and social capabilities.
Yeesh, this sounds a lot like China.
Oh yeah, he's a fan of punishing people who want big families.
Regeneration of single-child families with dramatic improvements. Irresponsible childbearing must be discouraged by legal and social pressure.
And how do only worthy people to reproduce to create a generation of genetically superior children? That's called eugenics.
So it's frowned upon, eh?
It is. It's what the Nazis did, or tried to do. It's also a war crime. But maybe not a crime at all in the New World Order. The Rockefeller that helped create the Club of Rome is the same guy who founded the Population Council in 1970.
Setting up in
The
the
Population
bunker.
Council supported, and still supports, research in birth control and
Look
early
at the
birth
bright side.
insemination.
Get the putter
There's a
going
million
now.
less
Bit
people
of a
with
monster
undeveloped
cut, but
genetics.
you're not
No,
innocent.
Rockefeller said so. Modern
Swinging
society
this
just
one way
Way
out
of
to
the
the right.
generation of natural selection by saving more.
All right,
did
most of the work.
enabling them to reproduce.
And you two will be all square to sink this.
Genetic quality.
I think we got a
Got a
right to
rotation
left break on this one.
That would be devoted to the reduction of fertility of weaker individuals with undesirable genetics.
One of the members of the Population Council, as recently as 2020, has been accused of supporting forced sterilization. The council is still active today. It operates its
And it's
programs
gonna be
in
all
North
square to
America
sink
and
this
the Middle East. Notice that North America and Europe are not on that list. Now, maybe this is
And
good,
that's
and
in there.
the council is focused on countries that are primarily non-white. The Population Council takes in millions upon millions of dollars
After that
year.
one, we're all
Who's the biggest
square.
contributor? The United States government.
Okay, the part 512 is ahead.
Public health has caused the world's infant mortality rate to decline by 60% over the last 40 years. In the same period, the world's average life expectancy has increased from 46 years in 1950s to 63 years today. The negative impact
Okay,
of
let's launch
conservation
this next
of
T-shirt.
all of our
26.
planetary ecosystems is becoming appallingly evident.
Guide number 1 was population
Look at this.
Guide
Got
number
all
2
that
was
one.
creating a
He
superior
shorted.
society for eugenics. Guide numbers 3 and 5 are just chilling.
He's hitting out
Unite
of deep
humanity
stuff
with
here.
a big new language. Let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court.
Uniting the world under a new single language and rectifying
This
all
might be
disagreements
bad.
in a world court, these are key to creating the New World Order. And local ministers pointed out that the Book of Revelation is
setting up about
220
yards
away government as the accomplishments of the Antichrist. And guide number 4, rule passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason. This also upset Christians who believe in faith above all. After all, that's the first commandment. God said, "You shall have no other gods before me." God wasn't down with tempered reason. These seemingly
He's in the deep stuff here. He's buried in it. Let's see how he
for
does.
alleged satanic worship, witchcraft, and pagan rituals. Elberton locals have reported seeing lights near the guide stones. They've heard chanting. They found melted candles on the capstone. Now, no humans were sacrificed there, but I can't say the same for a few chickens who had a less than amazing message toward guide stones. Now, other theories suggest that the stones were built part of the see regarding the ushering in of a new world. Other theories say that the stones are set on ley lines along with other icons, like the Great Pyramids of Great Wall of China and Stonehenge.
Fucking
That's
bitch.
not even mentioning
This fucking game sucks.
the Rosicrucians, who deserve their own episode.
Shit, dude.
Way to go. Back in the fairway. You've done well.
Well, it would take 35 years, but we finally have our answer.
Since this next putt here will go one up.
Bullshit.
I think
This
this
putt's
going
going
to
to break to the
right.
right. You want more liberty
Bullshit.
and more consumption. You have to have fewer people. And of course, if you have more people, so we could even have 8 or 9 billion following that. Unfortunately, you never had smart dictatorship.
Okay,
So
lining up an
they had
8-putt
smart
putt.
dictatorship. And the low standard of living, you have to put
Just a little too much power. And
So
this
we're going
putt's
to
going to put him one
one
up.
up, 7. So we have to get back down. I hope that this can be slow, relatively slow.
And that's going to drop. And he will win this one.
So that
And we are
moving forward, leaving that whole distance. Don't have a too rich, trying to force everybody else.
Okay, next hole is at 13. And this one's a par 3.
Optimistic hopes, but that's what lots of happen.
Over the years, internet detectives had many theories about the true identity of Arson Christian. Businessman and founder of CNN, Ted Turner, was the leading candidate. He had the money, and his foundation was created to protect the environment, and he specifically said the greatest threat to civilization is overpopulation. Ted Turner can't be Arson Christian, because Ted Turner is still alive.
And let's see what you do off the TV.
Who knew Christian's true identity, kept Christian's identity a secret. Christian and Martin exchanged letters at least twice a year until Christian's death. The letters were never sent from the same place, nor were the funds transferred from the same place twice. In the past ways.
There we go.
Good shot.
He mentioned that Christian had a daughter, and that he was in basic training in Georgia before being deployed in World War II. Martin said that Christian was from the Midwest, and at some point he worked in construction.
He's had enough.
Almost. What sealed the deal was something that took place in 2005, when a documentary crew was filming Dark Clouds over Elberton. Wyatt Martin had recently suffered a stroke and was in pretty bad health. The film crew pressured him to show them the letters that
He's
he
getting this concentration going here for this
Martin
long
was
putt. Let's
reluctant,
see
but
how he
eventually agreed. Though he was
This
careful
is
to
going
post
right
the
to
envelope
left.
was showing them the camera. But the cameraman was able to grab a close-up shot of an envelope in the box, which had a return address.
You can't even think we'll take advantage of the old time,
I agree.
See what
But
he
even
does
though
here.
we
This
the
for
way
the
we came
bogey.
about this information, it doesn't change the fact that we have it. So using this information,
All right, take this one and you'll win the hole.
Nasty comments on videos about how you content sex.
no, they tracked down the
Almost
information.
drained.
The
That
letters
was
came
one
from
birdie.
Dr. Herbert Hinz
All square after that
hole. Kirsten is the old German form of the name Christian.
Blowing left to right on this one.
Like the old timers said.
Kirsten died in 2005. Now, according to Kirsten's obituary, he served in World War II. He was a conservationist who loved nature and trees. He was a naturalist who was very involved in environmental and world population issues.
Oops, that's no good.
Kirsten also worked in construction when he was
And
younger.
he's ready to go. Let's see how this all goes for him.
The guy who wants to limit people to one rugrat had force.
Yep.
Rules for me, but not for me. Useless guy wasn't in Congress.
Well, I'm sure he with his friends. One of them was William Shockley. Shockley was a physicist and inventor. He actually won the Nobel Prize for Physics in 1956.
Yeah, sounds like a good guy.
Okay, he's in a
He was
fairway
also
bunker. Let's see what
both
happens.
racist who supported eugenics.
I take back what I said.
Now, Shockley argued that less intelligent people were having too many children and reducing the average intelligence of the population. He also believed
Going
that
with
some
the 9
races
iron
were
on this one.
others. Clearly,
This one might be coming up short out of the sand.
Christian shared similar
And
views.
here's shot number
Though
2
the Guidestones
on hole number
so
14.
simply racist, we know that Dr. Kirsten was a supporter of David Duke, former Grand Wizard of the KKK.
Maybe it's
I
not
think
so
this is
bad.
short from the sand.
Well, destruction
We're
of
not
the
going to hit every green today. That's all right. All right. Here he comes out of the deep rough.
On
Let's see
July
how he
6,
deals.
2022, just after 4 a.m., CCTV picked up an individual running to the stones carrying some. Seconds later, there's an explosion, and one of the 4 monoliths is destroyed. Less than a minute later, a car is captured on camera leaving the scene. What's strange is, within hours, heavy equipment was brought in to clean up the site. Shouldn't this have been a crime scene for longer than a few hours? ATF was on the scene almost immediately. Weren't they curious about what kind of explosive was used? What components it was made of? What kind of trigger device was employed? Modern forensics can give us all kinds of information, but all the evidence was quickly removed. The Guidestones were in a remote location. There's only one road in or out. There's no footage of this vehicle once it leaves the area. It's the middle of the night somewhere in Georgia.
Third
We're
shot.
one of the only cars on the road, but we don't have any new information.
Government was in on it.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying
Nice.
there are questions that can now never be answered because the site, along with any evidence, was cleaned up.
All right,
by
drop
the
this.
police.
You'll go
It's very
one
easy
up
to just
on
carry
your
out by someone who's
opponent.
very anti-government, or maybe someone who is just
Bitch.
these people who want us to
He's
live
gonna
in
dumbass.
seem to have plenty of
Can't
children.
even hit a fucking
Rockefeller
putt.
had 6
Sorry,
kids. William Shockley had 3. R.C. Christian, a.k.a. Dr. Kirsten, had 4. But the rest of us are only
And to have the hole.
who decides who's genetically fit?
Okay, next
They
hole.
want to limit the population of the Earth.
Okay,
But
that
they
hole's
told
gonna
you
have.
that it was the rapid growth and advancement of
This
the
one up
race
on
that
15th
will
hole.
amass ridiculous wealth. Now that they have theirs, they want to limit what we can have. These same people are the ones who scream about climate change, fossil fuels, pollution. They want to decide who can own what kinds of vehicles and how much energy you
Unfortunately,
can
that
use
was
to warm your house in winter. But how did J.D. Rockefeller
He's
make his
just
money?
about ready to tee off. Let's see how he
Remember
does.
J.D. who founded the Club of Rome? He made his fortune working for Fiat, a huge company that makes cars, trains, planes, tractors, and military equipment. When they were making their families rich and powerful, the climate wasn't as big a concern. But now it is. All the problems facing our planet can be
He might end up in the rough on this one. Let's see.
through our collective innovation and cooperation. All of us. But the elites don't want cooperation. They want control.
And he's just managed to sneak that into the second cut here.
Genetics. They don't believe we're
Second
intelligent
shot
enough
here
to make
on
those
15.
decisions for ourselves, so they'll make those decisions for us. It's very possible, and maybe even likely, that whoever destroyed the Georgia Guidestones was aware of this hypocrisy. They look how to condone the destruction of property. They know that some monuments and statues are offensive to some people, but those people don't have the right to just decide on their own to tear them down. People should vote on what statues go up and what monuments come down. Anything else is vandalism and discrimination.
This one coming out of the deep rough.
Destroyed the Georgia Guidestones. Now I hope he's found and sent to prison for what he's done. But now that they're gone, I say good riddance.
Who you vaguely recognize. Lorpus ruined my
This
friend's
might not be enough
Choose
of
the
the
Wi-Fi
rough.
stream, not intergalactic substances.
Early in the morning of January 4th, 2012, a strange message appeared on the internet. Just a few lines of text on a black background posted anonymously. Hello. We are looking for highly intelligent individuals. To find them, we have devised
He almost drops it in there with a tip.
Your food's here, Bear.
We look forward to meeting with you that will make it all the way through.
Your food is here.
3301. Many speculated that it was a recruiting tool for the NSA.
Oh my.
What the fuck?
But who was really
All you
behind
gotta do
this?
is put that in the hole for
It
par.
didn't have a purpose.
It looks like
We
this
took
one's
the
breaking to the
didn't
left.
matter, because when you post a
Going
puzzle on
towards
the
that
internet
hole.
for a highly intelligent
Good stroke on that one. That's your par. He's got a 10-foot putt here. And this one's going to go a bit to the left.
January 4th, 2012.
Changes one up to the match after that one. Okay, let's see what you can do here with a par 3 16th.
There is a message hidden in this image. Find it. It will lead you on the road to finding us. The puzzle is open to anyone.
We'll get it back.
As you solve each clue, you move on to the next
All
one.
right, let's see how he does.
Posted on 4chan was the first clue. Solvers tried various methods to extract the secret message. Some used Photoshop to view the pixels. They applied different filters and techniques to see what could be hidden in the image. But the solution to the puzzle wasn't visual. It was plain text. When an image is opened
Not
in
the
its
purest
strokes,
strokes.
strings of characters and symbols. But to a computer, these symbols make sense. It's a binary format representing pixel placement, color information, metadata, and all kinds of
we've found your friend in the deep rough. Let's see how he does.
In a text editor, there was a string of characters at the end of the file.
And we're in the rough, and it is a bad lie. Real deep into this rough.
And correctly guessed the message was encoded with a Caesar cipher. A Caesar cipher works by shifting the letters of the alphabet a fixed number of places down or up. You choose the shift value, for example, 3.
And from the deep stuff.
With the letter that's located 3 positions down. If you reach the end of the alphabet, you wrap around to the beginning. For example, using a shift value of 3, A becomes D, B becomes E, C becomes F, and so on. The Caesar cipher is easy to crack with modern methods and isn't considered secure. But it's historically significant and often used as a basic introduction to cryptography.
This one's moving to the right.
Puzzle. When the message was decoded with a shift of 4 places, the result was URL, which turned out to be another image.
Ouch, right by the hole.
There's decoys this way. Looks like you can't guess how to get
And
the
if
message.
you can sink this, you'll go 2 up for the match.
The participants hit their
It's got
first
a pretty hard break left
to
to the
right. Showed nothing. It turned out that the image contained 2 keywords that hint at how to get the real message out. Those keywords indicated
Sink this, you'll go 2 up on your friend.
A small application.
All right, now your opponent has conceded the pot. We're going to take this hole and head to the next. Here we go on the 17th hole.
Image or file within another message, image or file. Unlike encryption, which scrambles data so that it's unreadable without the correct key, steganography conceals the fact that a secret message exists at all. Imagine you have a digital photo.
All right, let's see how he does here on this hole.
You can subtly change the color values of certain pixels to encode the text. To anyone looking at the image, it appears normal. But someone who knows where and how to do it.
He has a chance of winding up in the rough here.
Agent read it in a different clue, a book cipher. Book ciphers are almost impossible to crack without the book. But 3301 knew how to give us just enough information.
And that one rolls barely in the second pot.
When solvers finally made it to Reddit,
Here's our second shot on 17.
3301 was just warming up. The image to the top was processed with
That's a safe shot.
On your food here.
Let's try to get out of this. Where the key to deciphering the code is
Let's see how this goes.
Such as a book or article. Each word or letter in the secret message is replaced by a coordinate that points to its location in the chosen text. For example, if the word apple is found on page 42, line 5, word 3 of the book, you'd replace apple in your message with coordinates 42, 5, 3. The Beale ciphers are a set of 3 ciphertexts that supposedly reveal the location of $43 million of hidden treasure somewhere in Bedford County, Virginia. They were first published in 1885, and the ciphertext was Efficiencies are still useful.
And this
This
cut
to
to
win
win
the
the match.
match.
43 mil.
It
It
looks like
looks
this
like
one's
this one's
breaking
breaking
right
right
to
to
left.
left.
So to
Well, this
decode
one's
This
on
one's
a
on a
line.
line.
Like it
Like
how
it
it's
how
turning
it's turning
out.
out.
Oh, and the
Oh, the
putt
putt
doesn't
page
go.
on Reddit, it was full of
Looks like he's
posts.
So
got
he's
around
got
8
around 8
feet to the
feet to the
cup.
cup.
There was also an odd image in the header. Even the page had a title that looked like random characters.
All right,
Right,
it's
it's
simple.
simple.
Sink
There were
this,
also
win.
4 lines of text and 2 additional
And with
images.
that,
The outguest on the
our
welcome
time
mat
here is
image
done.
was this.
And
And
if
if
this
this
one
one
is
is
over,
over,
you
you
pulled
pulled
out
out
a
a
win.
win.
And
And
kicked your
kicked your
opponent down
opponent
the
to the
curb.
curb.
Great job out there,
on the
boys.
course.
Patience is a virtue.
And
And
that's going to do it for us today. Just flew by.
flew by.
Thanks
Thanks
again
again
for
for
playing,
playing,
and
and
we'll
we'll
see
see
you
you
soon.
soon.
There are a lot of imposters popping up pretending to be Cicada 3301. But because 3301 implemented PGP encryption, new messages can be authenticated. PGP stands for Pretty Good Privacy, and this is an encryption system used for sending emails and sensitive files. How it works is you create 2 keys. One is public, which you share with everyone. The other is private, which only you have. So if someone wants to send you a secure message, they encrypt it with the public key that you share, and then you use your private key to decode the message. 3301 would encrypt all their clues going forward, like the clue hidden in the second image, which was a stereogram, which is an optical illusion that creates a 3D image when viewed in a specific way. This stereogram kind of looked like the Holy Grail. This image also contained a secret message.
The key has always been right in front of your eyes. This isn't the quest for the Holy Grail. Stop making it more difficult than it is. Good luck. 3301.
Subreddit also contained many lines of what appeared to be encrypted text. The question that everyone faced was, which cipher method had to be used, and how do you find the key? The hidden message provided a hint. The key was literally in front of your eyes. It was the image in the header. Those symbols are actually Mayan numbers. The title translates to, what are you talking about?
The clue. I'm going to solve this one.
Okay, what is it?
Hocus Mira Thosa Naka.
Yeah.
That's a Mayan word for something, right? A Mayan word for goat kiss?
No. The letters make up a...
The Mayan word for lettuce?
No, they make up
The
a...
Mayan word for makeup?
No, it's a key.
The Mayan word for key?
It's not a Mayan word. It's an encryption key.
Okay. Don't get your panties in a wad. Key to what?
Remember the
I don't like
subreddit
that.
posts with encrypted titles? It was determined that they were encoded with a Vigenère cipher, which is another letter-shifting encryption technique. Vigenère encoded text needs a key. The string of letters made from the Mayan numbers was that key. Without the key, decoding a Vigenère encrypted message is almost impossible. Even with the key, it would take a long time. And if you miss just one letter, you end up with meaningless texts. So your translation has to be perfect. But there's no reason to do it manually. It takes a lot of processing power, but computers can eventually guess most Vigenère keys. But if you already have the key, computers can easily decode the message. There are even websites to help you do this. The decoded text was from Thomas Bulfinch's Mythology. This was a classic work based on the tales of King Arthur, the Knights of the Round Table, and their hunt for the Holy Grail. So now the solvers knew the book that was needed to decode the book cipher. But this time it wasn't a message or a web page or an image. It was a phone number.
You didn't get no food.
At first, people thought Cicada 3301 was just an online troll pumping out puzzles to waste everyone's time. But there was just too much work put into it. Whoever was behind the puzzles was someone with computer skills and advanced knowledge in cryptography. So the duck image led to a book code and a page on Reddit. And the page on Reddit led to 2 more images, Mayan numbers, and the book cipher. And the book was about King Arthur's quest for the Holy Grail.
Get up with it.
Now we can use the book code mentioned in the outguest message from the initial image. A book code encodes each letter with 2 numbers, the line number and the character index in the line. By applying the book code to the text, we get the following text string.
Call us. Telephone number 214-390-9608.
When the book cipher revealed a phone number in Austin, Texas, codebreakers thought they'd finally learn who was behind Cicada 3301.
Very good. You have done well. There are 3 prime numbers associated with the original final .jpeg image, 3301. is one of them, you will have to find the other two. Multiply all three of these numbers together and add a .com on the end to find the next step. Good luck. Goodbye.
No answers, just another clue. Cicada 3301 was a series of intricately woven puzzles. Each puzzle got progressively more complex, but future puzzles often referred back to earlier ones, indicating this entire process was thought out well in advance. The length of the scavenger hunt also weeded out casual participants. Only those with patience would continue. It was natural selection. Solvers went back to the original image, looking for anything that would indicate a prime number. Outguess revealed nothing. Scanning the image with Photoshop and other forensic tools also provided no help. People counted the characters and the spaces in the text. They converted the characters to ASCII. They ran the text through every cryptography algorithm you can think of, and still nothing. But like many of the Cicada puzzles, the answer was hidden in plain sight. The original image looks like a square, but keen observers noticed it wasn't a perfect square. The image was actually 509 pixels wide by 503 pixels tall. 509 and 503 are prime numbers. Multiply 509 by 503 by 3301, and you get 845145127. Add a .com, just like the voicemail said, and that's where we see the infamous Cicada image for the first time. Under the image was a timer, and it was counting down. When the countdown reached 0, the timer was replaced with a list of coordinates. 14 locations in 5 countries all over the world, with an invitation to find the location nearest you. Up until now, the puzzles existed exclusively on the internet, but now Cicada 3301 was going out into the real world. The list of 14 locations around the world indicated that Cicada 3301 was a global organization, or a handful of people with the time and money to create complex puzzles and travel the globe. But by taking the next round of puzzles into the real world, Cicada created another filter. In order to move forward, not only did you have to be excellent at cryptography, you had to have the means to travel to one of the locations provided, and only the most committed could proceed. At each of the coordinates was a poster containing the Cicada image and a QR code. Scanning the QR code resulted in a link to another JPEG file. Like before, running the image through Outguess revealed secret text.
A poem of fading death, named for a king, meant to be read only once and vanish. Alas, it could not remain unseen.
The image also included a warning.
You've shared too much to this point. We want the best, not the followers. Thus, the first few there will receive the prize. Good luck, 3301.
Considering the difficulty of the puzzles and the mystery surrounding them, it was only natural that people were talking and sharing information and collaborating. If you didn't live near one of the Cicada locations, you almost had no choice but to ask for help. But Cicada 3301 was clearly watching, and if you got caught teaming up, you'd be out. And it didn't take long to identify the text referred to by the last clue. It was the poem Agrippa by cyberpunk novelist William Gibson. Agrippa is a very Cicada type of poem. It was originally distributed on floppy disk, and after you read the poem, it encrypted itself.
Meant to be read only once.
Solving the book code resulted in another URL. But this one was different, a .onion extension. Onion routing makes the data's source and destination untraceable by encrypting the data multiple times, like the layers of an onion. Onion pages aren't accessible with a regular web browser. You need a specialized browser designed specifically to access pages hosted on the Onion Router network, or Tor network. In other words, the dark web. When most people think of the dark web, they imagine a place full of illegal activities, a place where people can buy and sell drugs, weapons, and worse. And it's true, those things exist on the dark web, but that's only a small fraction of what's there. The dark web is actually a part of the deep web, which is all the unindexed parts of the internet, including private databases, email accounts, and subscription services. In fact, most of the data on the internet exists on the deep web. The dark web is specifically the section of the deep web accessible only through specialized tools like the Tor browser, which makes web traffic anonymous. Before it was made public, Tor was used by the U.S. Navy to secure government communications. Later, it became a beacon for privacy advocates and anyone looking to shield their online activity from prying eyes. Not just criminals, though. Journalists use the dark web to communicate with activists in oppressive countries. Whistleblowers have used the dark web to remain anonymous. If you want to remain anonymous and untraceable, you go to the dark web. It's only natural that a group like Cicada 3301 would end up there. So cicada solvers who made it this far typed the onion link into their Tor browser and were greeted with the following message.
Congratulations. Please create a new email address with a public free web-based service, one you've never used before, and enter it below. We recommend you do this while still using Tor for anonymity. We will email you a number within the next few days, in the order in which you arrived at this page. Once you've received it, come back to this page and append a slash, and then the number you received to this URL, 3301.
This would be the first time that Cicada would communicate directly with people. Very few made the cut, but those that did received an email a few days later.
This message will only be displayed once. Here is a message that has been encrypted with RSA. The encrypted message is a number. Break the decryption key, then come back to the same URL and enter the decrypted message to continue. Each person who has come this far has received a unique message encrypted with a unique key. You are not to collaborate. No. Sharing your message or key will result in not receiving the next step. Good luck. 3301.
Since each participant was assigned a unique number, Cicada 3301 was able to track who was sharing information. If you got caught, you were out.
Hello. You have shared your information online. You are now removed from this altogether. Even if you crack the key you've been given, it doesn't matter, because you have demonstrated that you can't be trusted to follow simple instructions anyway. Thank you for your participation to this point. Goodbye. 3301.
But those who were able to solve the puzzle and solve it alone received an email. The email contained the following text, along with a piece of music.
This song is your own path, another stop on the road toward enlightenment. Follow it and share not.
Oh, that was terrible. I was so better than K-pop. Should have like a villain.
The music was encoded as a MIDI file. MIDI is music expressed as code. It was found that there were two tracks that provided two different messages. Each message had fewer than 26 combinations of pitch and tone, which hinted that each combination could represent one letter. The music was decoded into a cryptogram, which could then be broken.
Very good. You have proven to be most dedicated to come this far to attain enlightenment. Create a GPG key for your email address and upload it to the MIT key servers. Then encrypt the following word list using the Cicada 3301 public key. Sign it with your key. Send the ASCII armored ciphertext to the Gmail address from which you received your numbers.
Everyone who received this email was also given a set of 50 unique words. Those words were to be encrypted and emailed back. What happened after that is unknown, but about a month later, the image on the subreddit changed.
Hello. We have now found the individuals we sought. Thus, our month-long journey ends. For now. Thank you for your dedication and effort. If you were unable to complete the test, or did not receive an email, do not despair. There will be more opportunities like this one. Thank you all.
3301.
And just as cryptically as the cicada puzzle started, it finally ended. It was assumed that the mysterious group, whoever they were, finally found the highly intelligent individuals it needed. Cicada 3301 stopped posting messages and was largely forgotten. But a year and a day after the first puzzle was posted, Cicada 3301 was back. Cicada was quiet for a year, but on January 5th, a new image was posted to 4chan.
Hello again. Our search for intelligent individuals now continues. The first clue is hidden within this image. Find it, and it will lead you on the road to finding us. We look forward to meeting the few that will make it all the way through. Good luck. 3301.
Like before, running the image through outguess led to a book code, which led to a URL, which led to a file, a large file. This file was its own mini operating system. When you booted it up, it displayed the prime numbers up to 3301 and then restarted the computer. It would do this indefinitely. But there was also a message within the numbers.
The key is all around you. Good luck, 3301.
Those numbers led to a Twitter account that was posting tons of encrypted text that nobody could decode. But on the mini operating system, someone realized that you could break the boot sequence and browse the file system. In one of the folders, there was a song, this time an MP3 file. According to the ID tags, the title of the file was The Instar Emergence. Solvers tried all sorts of techniques on this file to search for hidden meanings. They played it backwards. They isolated frequencies. They even ran the sound through spectral analyzers. But they found nothing. There were hidden messages and odd mini-poems all over the place, but nothing seemed connected. Then someone determined that the messages from the Twitter feed were actually lines of binary code, which could be assembled into a file. But it was encrypted and nobody could figure out how to decode it. It turned out that the messages were encoded with the binary data from another file as the key. That file was the song. So using the song, the Twitter data was decrypted into an image. A rune table. The rune table image also contained secret text, which led to more puzzles, which led to the dark web and to more posters around the world with different coordinates. In order to move forward from here, you'd need to have solved every puzzle so far. Now on the posters, there were phone numbers, and each phone number required an access code that you'd decipher using the rune table. Once you got past the access code, a computerized voice then read you a string of letters and numbers, which turned out to be a hex code. And then the hex code converted to a page on the dark web, which had a test for you to take. There were 19 questions in total, some mathematical, some logical, some philosophical. Very few people made it past this test, but those that did received an email.
Congratulations. Your testing has finally come to an end. We hope you have enjoyed the vacation over the last few weeks. You will be very busy now should you choose to join us. You have all wondered who we are, and so we shall now tell you. We are an international group. We have no name. We are drawn together by common beliefs. That tyranny and oppression of any kind must end. That censorship is wrong, and that privacy is an inalienable right.
Cicada 3301 was pretty well known by now and was being connected to hacker groups, and this was addressed in that email.
We do not engage in illegal activity, nor do our members. If you are engaged in illegal activity, we ask that you cease any and all illegal activities or decline membership at this time. We will not ask questions if you decline. However, if you lie to us, we will find out.
But the big question was why? What does Cicada 3301 even do?
We are much like a think tank in that our primary focus is on researching and developing techniques to aid the ideas we advocate. Liberty, privacy, security. And if you choose to accept membership, we are happy to have you on board to help with future projects.
So that was it. Cicada 3301 found a few more recruits and went dark. But the following January, people eagerly waited to see if Cicada would return. And they did not disappoint. After being inactive for a year, in January 2014, the Cicada Twitter account tweeted a link to a new image.
Hello. Epiphany is upon you. Your pilgrimage has begun. Enlightenment awaits. Good luck. 3301.
During the time Cicada was quiet, there were lots of fake puzzles floating around claiming to be from Cicada 3301. and they all turned out to be fakes. But running this new image through Outguess revealed a new message that proved to be authentic. Cicada 3301 was back, and they followed their familiar format. They embedded messages and images that could be extracted with Outguess. These images led to more clues on various web pages and the dark web. And a new piece of music was also discovered. This one was called interconnectedness. Using some familiar techniques, as well as some new ones, Cicada solvers concluded that Cicada was focusing on a single document. It's called the Liber Primus, or First Book. As more puzzles were solved, more pages of Liber Primus were uncovered. The book was written using the runes found in earlier puzzles, but the solution to every puzzle seemed to be a clue to yet another puzzle. People went back to the music file. They found more clues. From image files, they extracted more codes and more puzzles like magic squares and anagrams. All of those were decoded to reveal strange poems, which were nothing more than more clues. Liber Primus is 59 pages, and only a handful have been solved. And the pages that are solved are still mysterious. January 2015 came and went with nothing from Cicada. Some people speculated that Cicada had enough recruits for whatever it was they were doing. Others thought that Cicada would stay silent until all of Liber Primus was solved, and they could be right. In January 2016, Cicada tweeted a link to a new image. Running the image through Outguess proved it was authentic.
Hello? The path lies empty. Epiphany seeks the devoted. Liber Primus is the way. Its words are the map. Their meaning is the road, and their numbers are the direction. Seek, and you will be found. Good luck. 3301. Beware false paths.
Many speculated that their numbers are the direction was the major clue, but still no progress was made. In 2017, a user stumbled across a message from Cicada in Google's cached pages that nobody had noticed.
Beware false paths. Always verify PGP signature. 3301.
And that was the last anyone heard from Cicada 3301. It's been a few years with no solution to Liber Primus and no further contact from Cicada. This was disappointing to a lot of people. After all this, over several years, we were still no closer to finding out who Cicada 3301 was or what they did. But Liber Primus was the third quest. The first two were solved. And the people who solved them, they started talking. When that first image appeared on 4chan looking for highly intelligent individuals, the chase was on. The mysterious group known as 3301 presented clues and challenges that thousands of techies and puzzle solvers found impossible to resist. Each mystery became more complex. The clues that connected Julius Caesar and King Arthur to cryptography were genius, and easy enough to solve that people became hooked. The solutions that led to phone numbers and geographic coordinates made the search even more real. But over time, it became clear that 3301 was looking for a specific type of person. To solve Cicada, you needed knowledge of the concepts and the tools used in encryption. You had to have computer skills, understand operating systems, and be handy with programming. It also didn't hurt if you had expertise in Mayan numerology and pre-Christian literature.
Who doesn't?
But who was Cicada? A popular theory was that this was a recruiting effort for a government intelligence agency like CIA, NSA, or MI6. There was plenty of precedent for that. During the Second World War, the top-secret government code and cipher school used crossword puzzles printed in the Daily Telegraph to identify good candidates for Bletchley Park. Those recruits, along with Alan Turing, went on to solve the Enigma machine, which helped the Allies win the war. NSA and CIA ran similar contests over the years. Companies like Google and Microsoft have also used cryptography and puzzles to recruit. But one of the early winners said Cicada was none of these. After solving the final round of puzzles in 2013, he received an email with a username and password along with a site address on the dark web. The site had two parts, a message board and a chat room. The message board had various topics, including a welcome section and an area for Cicada's goals and current projects. The chat room had about 20 members. According to a couple of the winners, Cicada wanted to further the use of cryptography so more people would have access to internet privacy. Cicada had some big goals. But in the short term, they wanted to recruit highly technical people to develop open source cryptography software.
All that to find people to write free software?
Yep, and I think this was Cicada's big mistake. The recruits didn't want to write software, they wanted to solve puzzles. And when the puzzles stopped, the membership dwindled. There were spikes in membership when new challenges appeared, but it was the same story. The winners weren't interested in writing software. They weren't driven by ideology. They didn't care about politics. They just wanted to solve puzzles. The same thing happens when NSA, CIA, GCHQ, and other intelligence organizations do recruitment drives. Many of the winners are offered positions in one of these agencies, and many of them refuse. They don't want to work in government.
Yeah, they're too smart to work in government.
Well, that might be part of it, but really, they just want to solve puzzles. Whenever you achieve a task, your brain rewards you with a hit of dopamine. This could mean finishing a workout, completing a school project, or figuring out an escape room. Achieve a goal, get some dopamine. Our brains love dopamine. It turns out that solving problems is one of the biggest, if not the biggest source of dopamine for the brain. Solving puzzles like those presented by Cicada reward us with dopamine while we're working on them. And when we actually solve one, well, Cicada solvers describe that feeling as nothing less than exhilarating. Now, plenty of people are interested in politics and ideology, but not too many of them would describe their interest as exhilarating. Puzzles make us happy. When was the last time politics made you happy? And although two of the goals of this channel are to educate and inspire, the primary goal is to entertain. In other words, the Y-Files is here to make you happy. So that's why I've included a Cicada-type puzzle in this video. Think you can find it? Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. My name is AJ. That's Echofish.
That's the Mayan word for, hey, how you doing?
This has been the Y-Files. If you had fun or learned anything, do us a favor, like, comment, subscribe, share. That stuff really helps the channel. And like most topics we cover here, today's was recommended by you. So if there's a story you'd like to see or learn more about, go to theyfiles.com/tips. And if you need more Y-Files in your life, check out the Y-Files Discord. It's free to join, and there's thousands of people on there. And special thanks to our patrons who made this episode possible. I couldn't do any of this without you, so from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Now, if you'd like to support the channel, consider becoming a member on Patreon. It's only $3 a month. You get all kinds of perks, like early access to the videos with no commercials, and you get your name in the credits. Check those out. If you're not much of a joiner, maybe buy something from the Y-File store.
Grab a Hecklefish t-shirt and coffee mug, or one of these Hecklefish plushies talking fish toys.
That's going to do it. Until next time, be safe, be kind, and know that you are appreciated. This proves Fisher's economic theories could actually work.
My investment banker X never understood Beaverbox potential. I have venture capital connections who watch the Y-files.
In the late 1970s, all across South America, farmers were finding their animals mutilated. The wounds were precise. Surgical cuts, puncture holes, and burns. Major organs were missing. The bodies were drained of blood. Something was terrorizing the continent. But on a remote Brazilian island called Calades, the pattern changed. 3 things made the Calades animal attacks unique. 1, there were witnesses. 2, there were pictures. And 3, the animals were people. Dr. Wilaide Carvalho stared at the burns on her patient's chest. Perfect circles, burned tissue. Inside each circle, puncture marks grouped together like needle holes. After 6 months as Calades' only doctor, Carvalho knew what to expect on an island of 2,000 people. Farming accidents, fishing injuries, colds. Animal bites were the most exotic cases she treated. She wasn't prepared for any of this.
More UFOs in Brazil?
Oh yeah, Brazil has a lot of UFO activity, maybe even more than the US.
Yeah, I guess there's more to Brazil than just barbecue and bikini waxes.
There is.
Good booties.
Okay. The fishermen saw them first, bright objects shooting in and out of Morro Bay without disturbing the water. They raced across the sky and disappeared into the jungle. Local pilots saw them too. Their instruments failed whenever the objects appeared. Some described cylinders, others saw cones or discs. All were bright. Within weeks, more UFOs appeared. At first, just sightings. Then the phenomenon became more interactive. The UFOs waged an all-out assault on the island. Dr. Carvalho's 40th patient lay before her. All victims had similar injuries: burns, incisions, punctures. Most were women. Most attacks happened at night. Their stories sounded crazy, but were identical. It always started with the ceiling glowing orange. One victim described it like a cigar held to paper. The light intensified. Then a hole opened in the ceiling. Victims could see stars through it.
The alien ray guns burned to the roof?
No, people said the ceiling started to shimmer, and then they could see through the opening, but it was wavy, like looking through water.
Phase-shifting technology.
Probably. Next, colored lights would hit parts of their body, usually the left side of their chest. Then, paralysis. Complete immobility. They couldn't even scream. They felt blood being drained from their bodies. They gave the lights a name. Chupa Chupa. Bloodsuckers. When people told Dr. Carvalho they felt blood being sucked from their bodies by beings of light, she dismissed it as trauma. But blood tests confirmed it. Every victim had low blood counts, even without traces of bleeding. Whatever was doing this wasn't using any medical tool Dr. Carvalho recognized. She took patients to Belém, a city 2 hours away. Doctors there were equally baffled. The burns appeared in seconds, but took weeks to heal. Brain scans showed unusual activity patterns no one could explain. Half the residents fled the island. Those who stayed lit bonfires. They set off fireworks.
Bonfires and fireworks? Oh, they were celebrating the arrival of the new alien overlords.
No, they were trying to scare them off.
You can shoot laser beams through invisible roof holes. You're probably not going to flinch if you bottle rabbits Roman candles.
The lights weren't afraid. They even shot at them with hunting rifles. Nothing worked. After treating strange injuries all night, Dr. Carvalho got a call from Milan. 2 of her patients had died. Official cause? Unknown. She begged local authorities for help, but they were overwhelmed. Police increased patrols. The lights kept coming. The island transformed into a prison of fear. Fishermen refused to go out. Farmers abandoned their fields. The economy collapsed.
It is hard in the economy when people can't go to work.
It is.
But at least on this island, they chose to stay home. Imagine if the government forced you to close your business. Devastating.
Okay, I see what you...
Imagine what would happen to the economy if they shut it down for 2 years. Ooh, Mama, that would be devastating and unconstitutional.
Now is not the time. You got that out of your system?
Sorry. I got triggered. Go ahead, what happened next?
The mayor finally called the Air Force. His island was under attack. People were hurt. 2 were dead. He was put on hold, and a different voice picked up. He asked if victims had experienced blood loss or tissue damage like burns or punctures. When the mayor confirmed, they promised to send investigators. The mayor exploded. He didn't want investigators. He wanted fighter jets, missiles. He wanted these things destroyed. The Air Force officer was not surprised at the mayor's description. He'd heard it all before. A special unit arrived the next day. Except they didn't bring weapons. They brought cameras. Captain Olanda's Air Force team arrived with sophisticated equipment, telescopes, infrared sensors, high-speed cameras. They set up observation posts along the beach, working rotating shifts to document every incident. The military told local media this was a routine investigation. The talk of UFOs were rumors. There were no flying saucers. The lights were probably birds or planes.
Satellites, weather balloons, swamp gas.
Right. The Air Force said they weren't looking for UFOs. They were just there to secure the island. But if they weren't looking for UFOs, why did they call this Operation Prato? Prato is the Portuguese word for plate, or dish, or saucer. Olanda's orders were to debunk the story. Simple mass hysteria, he thought. Poor farmers and fishermen were seeing satellites or birds.
Oh, yeah, you gotta watch out for the laser beam shooting vampire birds in Brazil. They're very crafty.
Olanda didn't know. The people on Colares were poor and unsophisticated. This was probably a local legend being blown out of proportion. But then, Olanda's team saw the lights. Night after night, objects performed impossible maneuvers. Olanda was an experienced pilot. He knew what planes could do. These weren't planes. The lights hovered silently, then accelerated faster than any aircraft he'd ever seen. They tracked objects diving into Morocco Bay at high speed, making no splash, leaving no wake. Minutes later, the same object would appear over the jungle behind them. The team began to recognize patterns. The objects went from the water to the jungle, then to the villages. These lights were operated by something intelligent. The attacks continued. Olanda saw it with his own eyes. Women would try to hide, but the light followed them. Once hit, they were paralyzed. While the village was under attack, other lights hovered over Olanda's team. He felt like they were being watched or guarded. He tested his theory and moved their camp. The lights followed. As weeks passed, the evidence mounted. The team documented electromagnetic interference whenever the objects appeared. Their compasses spun wildly. Radio equipment failed. Even the military's sophisticated tracking devices malfunctioned. This was not mass hysteria. This was real. After 4 months, Operation Saucer had assembled over 2,000 pages of documents and scientific data. Captain Olanda believed they were close to understanding the phenomenon. The team mapped the lights' patterns, documented their capabilities, and even predicted their appearances with increasing accuracy. But these were still just lights. Not a single member of the team ever saw a solid craft. They took hundreds of photos and shot 16 hours of film, but the results were frustrating. Distant red and yellow spheres. Most frames were overexposed and useless. When Olanda sent his reports to Regional Air Command, he told the truth. Something strange was happening in Colares. He just couldn't prove it. The Air Force was not going to respond to lights in the sky, not in 1977. This was the height of Operation Condor. The Brazilian military had to be careful. The CIA was everywhere.
Hold on. You just took a hard left turn, and this ball doesn't have an oh shit handle. What do American spokes have to do with this?
Operation Condor was a secret alliance of military dictatorships in South America designed to crush political opposition. Brazil's government was deep in it. They were sharing intelligence with Argentina, Chile, and Paraguay. They worked together on covert operations like coups and assassinations, all paid for by
the CIA.
Right. The lights might be a classified American operation.
Oh, you mean like flying drones around military bases and pretending you don't know what they are?
Kind of like that, yeah. If the Brazilian Air Force took out an American asset and disrupted a CIA op, the consequences would be severe. Hollande needed hard evidence. He had nothing, just hundreds of images of pure white. One night he was sitting in his office going through the photos, frustrated. He knew there had to be something there, but whatever it was, the camera couldn't see it. Then Hollande looked at the flashlight on his desk, then back at the white photo, then back at the flashlight. Captain Hollande had an idea. Captain Hollande's team had sophisticated cameras, night vision devices, and state-of-the-art telescopes. Over 4 months, they documented every strange light and unexplained object. But capturing proof was harder than they expected. The team shot over 500 photographs and 16 hours of film. Some showed only lights, distant, blurry spheres of red and yellow. Most frames were completely blown out, pure white. As Captain Hollande examined one of these pictures, he saw the flashlight on his desk and had an idea. What if, instead of examining the finished photograph, he examined the negative? He thought about how doctors hold x-rays up to a lighted board. He tried the same technique. He enlarged the negatives, which looked pure black, but they weren't. When Hollande held them up to a light, he saw the faint outline of an object. Captain Hollande asked Milton Mendonça to join the team. Mendonça was a filmmaker and photographer, but he was also a sergeant and a trusted friend. Mendonça brought special ultraviolet film and showed the team a new technique. Instead of trying to photograph the lights directly, they focused on capturing the solid shapes hidden within them. It worked. The new photos revealed cylindrical objects with black bands along their hulls. Some were over 300 feet long, bigger than a 747. The objects moved in formation, even when diving into Marajo Bay, always without making a sound. The cameras also caught smaller probes being released from what the team called motherships. These probes would return to the larger craft after conducting what seemed to be surveillance missions. By December 1977, the team had documented enough evidence to prove these objects were real. Captain Hollande sent the evidence to Regional Air Command. He immediately received a call from a brigadier general with new orders. Surrender all photos, footage, and documents. All findings and reports were to be classified. Shut everything down. The team was surprised. They were finally making progress, but Captain Hollande followed orders. They packed up camp and returned to base. Operation Saucer was over. Hollande believed the Brazilian government shut them down because they didn't want them to find out who or what was controlling the UFOs. But it was too late. Captain Hollande already knew. Soon after the military left Colares, UFO encounters ended. The Air Force's official statement? Nothing extraordinary was found. Back in Colares, the story faded into local legend. But in 1996, Brazil made headlines with another UFO incident in Virginia.
By China episode down in the probe canal.
Virginia.
What did I say?
The public wanted answers. For 20 years, Captain Hollande kept silent about Colares. Then in 1997, now a retired lieutenant colonel, he decided the truth had to come out. For 2 days, Hollande spoke with A.J. Javert of Brazilian UFO magazine. His memory was sharp, but something had changed in the captain. The confident military commander was gone, replaced by a man haunted by what he'd seen. He described 3 encounters with the objects. The first happened during a routine night watch. A light appeared over Morale Bay, performing impossible maneuvers. The object was cylindrical, about 100 meters long, and made a strange hum.
Essa torre fazia barulho barulho de ar computador, mas bem mais forte. Parecia que fosse lá tudo. Aquele barulho de turbina. Não era barulho de jato. Era barulho de uma coisa girando, uma coisa.
The second encounter occurred on the beach. A craft appeared directly above his team.
Ela veio acompanhando a lateral, a margem do rio Oporta. Ela veio acompanhando, e a gente vendo, olha ali. Olha lá, veio. Quando chegou na direção da ilha, ela entrou na direção do Belém. Mas estava muito baixo. Na altura das árvores, passando a copa das árvores. Mas uma luz muito grande, um troço enorme.
The object was close enough that Orlando could see it wasn't made of any material he recognized. The surface seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. At this point, Orlando realized the objects were aware of them and were being operated by an intelligence.
Eles parecia que tinham absoluta certeza de nós estávamos. Eles não procuravam. Eles estavam em cima da gente. Depois de algum tempo que nós estivemos lá, vamos dizer, depois de um mês, as coisas eram em cima da gente. Eles já estavam em cima da gente. Eles sabiam o que a gente estava fazendo. Se podia se deslocar, estava aqui e ia para outro lugar. Lá que eles... Como se eles tivessem conhecimento da nossa movimentação, sabiam com segurança onde nós estávamos.
Operation Saucer lasted 4 months. During this time, Orlando sometimes went home to see his family. During one of these visits, in his own home, he had a life-changing incident. Late one night, he was in bed when he heard a crack, like an electrical power surge.
Teve algum problema ali, que ele estava muito grande, muito forte. E ao mesmo momento em que iluminou o quarto.
After the flash of light, Orlando found himself standing up, paralyzed with fear. He felt a presence behind him.
Tinha ser atrás de mim, me abraçando. Até uma situação meio esquisita. O cara me abraçando por trás. Eu não gostei muito da história.
Oh, do you get probed?
Not exactly.
That is not a good answer to that question.
While Orlando was restrained, he saw another being at the end of his bed. It was just under 5 feet tall and dressed in a suit that reminded him of an astronaut or a diver. He didn't see its face, only a gray mask.
Eu estava muito assustado. E aquele bicho, o cara vai me abraçando. Me abraçou, me apertou e falou no meu ouvido, em português.
Oh, this isn't going to turn into alien erotica like from a Chino story, is it?
Will you let the man speak?
I'm not judging, I'm just asking.
Metalizada, metalizada, uma voz assim, falando no meu ouvido, disse, calma, não vão te fazer nenhum mal.
Another crack, another flash of light, and it was over. His wife slept through the whole thing. Orlando thought it was a dream. But the next day, driving back to the operation, his forearm felt itchy. He noticed it was red. Yep. During his interview, Orlando rolled up his sleeve and pressed his forearm. Something moved under the skin. A small, flexible object. X-rays couldn't detect it, but a compass could. Javert asked what happened to all the photos and the documentation of Operation Saucer. Orlando said he didn't know. The government denied everything, and the operation was classified. He was ordered to stay silent, and he obeyed for 20 years. So why speak now? Well, he felt the duty to tell the truth before he died, or...
Vou repetir. Nunca falei isso para ninguém. Que é autorizado a publicar. Tá? Estou te falando agora. Já estou com 70, daqui a pouco estou com 70. Se chegar lá, me desaparecer antes.
Orlando's concern about disappearing seemed strange. But just weeks after giving this interview, before the article was even published, he was found dead in his apartment. He apparently hung himself using the belt of his bat. The Brazilian government kept Operation Prato classified for over 20 years. Then in 1997, the officer in charge came forward. Less than 2 months later, he was dead. Orlando's death seemed too convenient. Brazilian UFO researchers launched a campaign called Freedom of UFO Information Now. They demanded the release of all Operation Saucer files. The Air Force resisted. But by 2005, under public pressure, 3 generals invited researchers to military headquarters in Brasilia. For the first time, civilian UFO investigators examined Operation Prato's classified files. They accessed 110 photographs and 160 documents, a fraction of the total archive, but enough to confirm the extraordinary nature of the investigation. The Brazilian Air Force went further in 2010. They passed Resolution 551 GC3, a law requiring all UFO reports to be sent directly to the National Archives. Any Brazilian citizen could now access decades of military UFO investigations. Finally, a government was actively preserving its UFO records instead of destroying or classifying them. Mostly. Resolution 551 GC3 has a carve-out. The government can still classify documents if their release is considered a threat
to national security.
Right. The complete story remains hidden. The original operation files contained over 500 photographs and 2,000 pages of documents. Only a fraction have been released. The hours of film footage Yolanda's team shot was never made public. We still don't know the details of the 2 women who died. Some of Brazil's top military commanders want full disclosure. Brigadier General José Carlos Pereira, head of Brazilian Aerospace Defense Command for over 10 years, publicly stated that UFOs were solid objects under intelligent control, but factions within the military were fighting to keep specific files classified. There may be valid reasons governments don't fully disclose contact with extraterrestrials. Acknowledgement is announcement. It broadcasts to whoever's out there that we understand we're not alone in the universe. Some prominent scientists think revealing ourselves is a very, very bad idea. This is usually the part of the story where I debunk what I can. But with Claudius, there's nothing to debunk. Now, maybe the attacks weren't from UFOs, but the fact is, it happened. And then it happened again. In 2014, another string of UFO attacks hit Brazil. This time, indigenous tribes deep in the Amazon. The same light beams, the same injuries. The methodical nature of these attacks suggests something calculated, not random encounters. These beings are on mission. We just don't know what mission. Some scientists worry they're testing our defenses and technology. Now, if that's true, we might want to keep it quiet. Stephen Hawking warned that an advanced civilization might view us like Europeans viewed Native Americans, primitives to be conquered or eliminated. Physicist David Brin suggested any civilization capable of interstellar travel would see emerging technological species as future rivals, better to eliminate them early. This became known as the Dark Forest Hypothesis, named after Leo Cixin's three-body problem books.
The universe is a dark forest. Every civilization is an armed hunter stalking through the trees like a ghost, gently pushing aside branches that block the path and trying to tread without sound. Even breathing is done with care. The hunter has to be careful because everywhere in the forest are stealthy hunters like him.
Every civilization hides in the shadows facing the same problem. They don't know who else is out there. But they know 2 things. Resources are limited, and technology grows exponentially. Any civilization discovered today could become a threat tomorrow.
If he finds other life, another hunter, an angel or a demon, a delicate infant or a tottering old man, a fairy or a demigod, there's only one thing he can do: open fire and eliminate them. In this forest, hell is other people, an eternal threat that any life that exposes its own existence will be swiftly wiped out. This is the picture of cosmic civilization. It's the explanation of the Fermi paradox.
The Fermi paradox asks, if billions of advanced civilizations should exist, where is everybody? The answer, they're hiding. The moment you reveal yourself, you become a target. Not because advanced civilizations are evil, but because they can't risk letting potential competitors emerge. We don't know what these UFOs want, and given their technology, they could destroy us easily, but haven't. Does that mean they're friendly? Not necessarily. Maybe they just don't care. We're not a threat. Like the aliens in the three-body problem. They may think of us as bugs. And like bugs, we can be annoying, but we're not really dangerous. But what happens when wasps build a nest in your attic and start stinging your children? You call an exterminator. Our radio waves, space programs, and attempts at alien contact are like lighting a flare in the dark forest. They might lead to a new alien race making first contact, a race that will do more than experiment on a small number of people. Our government may have technology that aliens would view as threatening, and if it exists, it might be better to keep it a secret. But the decision shouldn't be up to the military alone. The military's job is to destroy things and kill people, and that's what they do. The military's necessary. But we need to show humanity is capable of more than destruction. We need civilians involved, scientists, philosophers, theologians. We need our brightest minds and our most empathetic souls, people who represent the best of us. Because when first contact is finally made, It'll either be the greatest achievement of the human race or the end of it. We need to make this decision now, and let's not get it wrong.
Welcome to Cryptid Cuisine. Today we're making Sasquatch stew, inspired by the Y-Files Bigfoot research. Remember, always source your cryptid meat ethically.
Gather round, because this happened. Suffolk, England, October 1957. 3 Royal Navy cadets walked across green hills on a training exercise, map reading and orientation. William Lang, Michael Crowley, and Ray Baker, a beautiful Sunday morning. Birds sang, church bells rang in the distance. Below them was the quaint, small village of Kersey. They walked down the slope toward the town, expecting to find a pub or a telephone. Instead, everything just stopped. The bells went silent, the birds vanished, and the only sound left was their footsteps on the grass. But there was something new, the smell of death. William Lang was from Scotland, a stranger to this part of East England. Michael Crowley and Ray Baker were local, all of them sharp, observant, fearless. But nothing in their training prepared them for Kersey. The silence hit them first. One moment, wind blew through the trees and birds sang in the distance. The next moment, nothing. The air went dead. Not quiet, dead. William later described it as an overwhelming feeling of sadness and depression. Something pressed down on them, a weight they could physically feel. The hills behind them showed orange leaves, red maples, and the browns of autumn. That made sense. It was October. But here in the village, everything looked summer green. They walked from October into summer in 10 steps. The village looked empty. No cars on the streets, no people walking between houses, no dogs barking, no children playing, no sounds of Sunday life. But smoke rose from chimneys, straight gray columns that climbed into the sky without moving. No wind blew them, like they were frozen in time. The cadets felt an irrational animal terror that made them want to run back up the hill, but they pushed forward. The houses looked wrong. Timber-frame structures that appeared medieval, but not ruined, not restored, but actively lived in. Yet they lacked every modern feature. No power lines, no television antennas, no telephone poles. Some windows had glass, but most were just open shutters. Their footsteps echoed on the cobblestones. Every sound they made felt too loud, like they broke some unspoken rule just by being there. They did not feel welcome. The church was supposed to be full of people. The streets were supposed to be busy with families walking home from services. Instead, Kersey was a ghost town. They passed the house with its door open. Lang looked inside. Dust floated in the light, but didn't settle. It just hung there. The interior looked lived in, but nobody was there. Near the stream at the village center, ducks stood motionless in the water. Not swimming, not moving, just sitting there, silent. The cadets looked up at the trees. The branches didn't move. And something even more unsettling, the trees cast no shadows. They reached a shop window. No glass, just an open hole in the wall. They approached the window, hoping to find someone who could explain what happened. It was a butcher shop. No counters, no cash register, no refrigeration. Just thick wooden planks, dark with old bloodstains and iron hooks hanging from the ceiling. And hanging from the hooks were 3 oxen carcasses, with flesh rotting off the bone. They weren't the carcasses of cows. They were oxen. Oxen were used as work animals, not for meat. Nobody in England slaughtered oxen anymore. The carcasses hung by their back legs, skinned and gutted. The meat turned completely green with decay, and sticky green fluid dropped from their bodies onto the dusty floor. Then the smell hit them. Old blood and rot. The sweet and metallic stench of meat that sat dead for days in warm weather, decomposing in the open air. On a thick wooden table was a curved butcher's blade, the kind used before industrial slaughterhouses. before stainless steel. It was October in Suffolk, mild weather, perfect condition for flies. Now, in the real world, rotting meat in October warmth attracts swarms of flies. The cadets should have heard them buzzing from 20 feet away, but there were no flies, no maggots, no insects crawling over green flesh. Nothing moved, because nothing lived here. They looked up, searching for the church tower where the bells rang when they approached, but the tower was gone. The church ended where the nave stopped, half finished. Construction halted in the middle of the build. Then the backs of their necks prickled. They spun around. The windows of the houses were dark, but someone was there. Multiple someones. Hiding in the shadows behind dark windows, someone was watching the three strangers who wandered into their village. And wherever they were, they wanted them to leave. The oppression grew heavier. It pressed down on their shoulders, making it hard to breathe. Michael Crowley started to shiver. His hands shook. His breathing was fast and shallow. Pure terror, the kind that bypasses thought and screams at your brain to run. "We need to leave," he said. His voice sounded flat and dead, like sound couldn't travel through the air. But the cadets agreed, and they didn't walk out of Kersey. They ran. They scrambled up the far hillside, boots slipping on wet grass, lungs burning. Lang later described running for a few hundred yards before they could even stop. When they finally collapsed on the ridge, gasping for air, they looked back at Kersey. It looked normal. A car drove down the main street. Smoke dispersed naturally in the wind. The church bell rang out, clear and normal. The church tower wasn't mid-construction. It stood tall against the sky. The village was alive again, or alive for the first time since they'd entered it. The green oxen were gone. The quiet was gone. It was like it never happened. But Lang knew what he saw, and he knew Kersey saw him back. The three men didn't speak about their experience for years. They knew how it sounded, and they had careers to protect. In the late 1980s, William Lang went back. Not physically, not yet. He was older now, living in Australia, and the questions never stopped. He talked by phone with Michael Crowley. They went over what happened. Crowley didn't remember in as much detail, but he remembered the quiet, the lack of wires, no streetlights, and he remembered the bizarre butcher shop. Something strange happened that day. They both knew it. Lang wrote to Andrew Mackenzie. Mackenzie was a psychical researcher who spent decades looking at cases like this. Time slips. Someone seeing the past with their own eyes. Mackenzie read Lang's letter. This wasn't just another ghost story. This was something extraordinary. They corresponded for years. Mackenzie cross-referenced every detail against historical records. Lang described everything he could remember.